basically the local Hi, hello, my name's Ollie Bliss and this is my channel Book Draw. I enjoy looking at queer fiction and occasionally I make some artworks about it. But today I am doing a tag. I am doing the Apple book tag, which was originally created by Josh the literary gladiator. I haven't actually checked out his video yet, but I was tagged by Shawn the bookmanic, and shout out to Shawn. I really enjoy Shawn's channel. For those of you who like a bit of a longer video where you can just kind of really indulge in a person's thoughts on a book, Shawn is the guy to go for. He has this incredibly relaxed and mellow attitude, occasionally with a bit of wine, and he's got these nice kind of plush looking cushions behind him, and you just feel like you're settling down and having a nice little chat with Shawn. And anyway, I better get on with this because this is quite an epic one. It took me a while to actually put all these together, so I hope you like them. The first apple is the Granny Smith apple, and this is one for a character who is overbearing. I chose Mrs. Bennet from Pride and Prejudice because her personality is the epitome of someone who is incredibly overbearing. The next apple is the Fuji apple, and this is a mountainous epic. I really wanted to talk about it, and I've never really had the opportunity to talk about this book, but it is epic and it's huge in scale, and I absolutely love the journey, and I just thought I'd share it with you. This is Illusion by Paula Volsky. I was completely transported into this world. This is based on a fantasy inspired by the French Revolution. The lead character, Elise Vaux-Derival, is a young aristocrat. You immediately kind of hate this young, prickly girl who's incredibly self-worthy and thinks everybody else beneath her is completely lower than her. And you watch her descend when she goes over to the capital, which is Baldwin A. She heads over there and it basically all falls apart because the equivalent of the French Revolution is occurring. But it's linked to all these kind of fantasy elements, and there's these mystical objects which are quite terrifying, quite vile really. I don't know if I can show you this, but maybe I'll put it on the other side. There's this structure, this magical structure. City folk come together and watch the spectacle of the aristocrats being consumed by this mystical machine, which is basically the equivalent of the guillotine. So it's got this real rich sense of history. It's also got this incredible elements of magic. The aristocrats all have magical abilities, but over the years that has diluted and they've lost their kind of potency and their worth because they've basically been living a life of luxury and they've lost all their skills. So there's all these interesting parallels in terms of how the rich, elite and wealthy live and kind of lead and suppress people below them, and how it comes to a turning point and they rise above it. I really enjoyed the character's journey, Elise, in terms of her descent into losing everything and then basically having to repent and rebuild herself back up. The third is the Red Delicious, which has the perfect cover but is rotten inside. The only book that I really could describe this, I mean there's a lot of nice covers out there, but this one did it for me, particularly in terms of the actual content on the inside. So this is Eileen, which is by Ottessa Moshfegh, I think. I can't pronounce her name, I'm so sorry. But this cover is stunning in terms of there's a woman who is walking in the snow and you don't get to see her face. So it did allure me with a sense of mystery, but when you actually read the inside, it's rotten, not in the sense that it's a poorly crafted book, but in the sense that the lead character is like pretty rotten to the core. The next apple is the Golden Yellow. Now it would have been really easy for me to do the Tin Man, but I feel like I've already discussed that book quite a lot, so instead I chose something which is probably lesser known, which is The Compromisers. This book is by Ernest Borneman. It's an older book. This is actually a first edition. This was first published in 1962. I'll just read the back because it describes it much better. It focuses on a trio of highly complex protagonists, Peter, an Oxford Don, Paula, his wife, and the Commandee Morlax, one of the few convincing portraits of a lesbian ever painted by a male hand. I thought this one was worth talking about just because it's probably lesser known. The next one is McIntosh, which has an influence on writing, and I chose Patrick Ness more than this. The reason why I chose this book was because I feel that this is an interesting direction for a young adult novel which is exploring sexuality but without just looking at usual tropes. I have done a full review on this book, but it explores Seth's journey as after he's recently drowned, wakes up in a world which he barely recognises and feels familiar, and he's trying to understand why he has been put upon in this place. For me, this is a real different movement for young adult literature, other than those formulaic linear narratives in terms of boy meets boy, girl meets girl. So for me, this, in terms of as a literary contribution, just nudges it in a more interesting direction. The next apple is the Honeycrisp, which is a book which is in great demand. I chose Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sáenz. This book I love. I think people know that I love this book already. I've done a full review on it. I have talked about this previously, but it is one of those stories which is so worth the hype. All I can say is go out, get this book if you've not read it, you will feel all the feels. The next apple is the Baldwin, which is a hidden book, stunted in its acclaim. And I chose Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone by James Baldwin. I chose this one because I think people are aware of James Baldwin, especially in terms of Giovanni's Room, and may be less aware of this particular book. This focuses on Leo Proudhammer, who is a bisexual black man living in Harlem in New York. It's on the edge of an increasing race war, as well as him having his internal conflict with his own sexual identity. The next two I don't have the books for, so, I don't know where I've put them. First of all, Empire, which is a book which is based in New York. I chose I Am Not Myself These Days, which is by Josh Kilmer Purcell. This is Josh's memoir, which is about his dual life as art director in an advertising agency by day, and by night he is a drag queen called Aqua, or Aquadisiastic. And it follows Josh's descent into this nightlife culture where he basically has a very troubling relationship with his boyfriend. He gets involved in a lot of drugs, and you just see him spiral out of control and out of himself through the very messy and sordid world of the underbelly of Manhattan. The next one is Gala, which is a multi-genre fitting title. I chose The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. For those who've been following my channel for a while, I think people know my appreciation for this book. This book covers everything. You can see a previous video which I talk about in full review, but it talks about race, sexuality, class, domestic abuse. It touches on so many different themes, and it's encompassing it all in such a tight little book, which is through a series of letters. It's done in just such a tender way, which allows you to sit with those feelings and be guided through it. The next apple is Ambrosia, which is long but easy to follow. For this one, I cheated slightly, and I chose an author who I think is quite well known, Amstead Maupin, and his series of books called Tales of the City, and this is just a selection, and these are all actually my partner's books. I've not actually read these, but I have watched the series, and I believe that we might be seeing some more of Amstead Maupin's work through on Netflix in future. His series could be easily one of the longest running series for queer fiction. I'd love to know if you have any other alternatives which you think would challenge this in terms of the sheer number of books which follow an ongoing series of characters. The next book is Jazz, which is a popular book which it has been created after 2010. For this one, I chose Sebastian Barry's Days Without End. This was Costa Book of the Year in 2016, which is also its release year as well. This is a huge epic saga for something which is actually relatively quite light. This book still is staying with me in terms of the journey that the characters go on. It is quite a popular one in terms of, I've seen it around on BookTube quite a bit, but it's there with good reason. Finally, the last one is Matsu, which is a big book which you indulge in, and I chose the Avatar series, The Last Airbender, a series which follows directly after Avatar. So if you've watched Nickelodeon's series of Avatar, you will love this because it bridges between The Last Airbender series and the adventures of the Legend of Korra. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I highly encourage you to go and investigate this series. If you've never had an experience with anime or manga, this is a really good place to start. Okay, so those are all my apples for this book tag. I hope you've enjoyed my run through on these. Thank you again to Shawn for tagging me in this video. It's been a pleasure to do this with you, and I will see you again soon. Okay, bye!